This is the Hope Not Note podcast,
where we answer your questions and share inspirational stories to fill your soul with hope.
Our mission is to empower hope to those who have been plagued by note.
I'm Dr. Dylan Caswell.
And I'm Brandy.
And we're here to bring you out of the note and into hope.
Welcome to the Hope Not Note podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are thrilled to be with you. Before we jump into this podcast episode, I would love to invite our listeners to rate, share, subscribe, all the things. It really helps us.
Smash that like button.
Smash that like button.
I just like using the word smash.
Smash! Smash. Hulk smash.
I think it's because we got a burger smasher.
Yes.
And it's just fun to make the little meat patty and then smash it down and try to make it restaurant style.
Yeah, so do that with the like and the share button.
Although we did that the other day, and instead of a good burger, we ended up with a Mondo burger.
Yeah, it was weird. I wonder.
Sorry if you don't get the 90s reference of Good Burger.
Mr. Good Burger.
Like the episode, subscribe, share it, and then go watch Good Burger.
While also making your own burgers.
Nailed it.
Perfect. Our question is from a listener named Kiara, and she says, I am a collegiate athlete and I'm having a rough semester. I'm not really enjoying my sport anymore and it's hard for me to put in effort. I don't want to quit, but I'm struggling with playing, the thought of playing next semester. Do you have any tips with this?
So Brandy, what do we call that?
What she's doing
that
right now?
Theme, yes.
The quiet quitting?
Quiet quitting.
Yes.
So it's quiet quitting, and if you're an athlete, you can relate to it. If you're an athlete who's still training, competing, and working a full-time job, you may have situations in which you can relate to it. But quiet quitting is when you are continuing to show up, which credit to you for showing up, because, man, if you're struggling, sometimes showing up is the hardest thing to do. It's, you get the Sunday scaries, and then assuming that your work schedule is Monday, it may not be, but you get the scaries of, oh gosh, I need to return back to work tomorrow.
The Sunday scaries every day.
Sunday scaries every day. It is hard, but quiet quitting is when you continue to show up and you go through the motions, but you don't want to be there. You're not tied into what you're doing. You're getting through the motions. Your recovery is, I don't want to say non-existent because the body's incredible and can still recover, but you're resting, but you don't feel rested. Mm-hmm. It's a miserable place.
It's terrible. I've been there before. It's terrible to be in a space like that.
Yeah. And again, pointing out, quiet quitting, still showing up is commendable for it.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes people are showing up is the answer. If you just get there, the rest will fall into place. Well, it's that's not always the case. Sometimes you get there and it just drains you even more. Sure, you're there, but it's it exhausts you. It doesn't necessarily energize you.
Right.
And again, the value of showing up is huge. It's an important thing, but I think in this specific example for Kiara or anyone that's been through this, showing up isn't the hardest part. The hardest part is having to be there after you show up. Mm-hmm. Which is just, it's hard. My heart aches.
Yeah. So I want to dive into some dialogue to get some more of the deets with Kiara.
Don't we always want that?
We always want that.
We love these podcast questions, but we love the back and forth that we could have with people.
Yeah, but and what we've learned is we love that, the back and forth, but we've also realized the conversation's pretty similar between people. So, that's why we started creating content is so people can take that and be able to lead themselves through some of these reflective questions, because it depends on the point of the season that you're in. Is this in training camp or preseason where it's always hard and it's meant to be hard and it's meant to challenge you and meant to push you to your limits, because it's you're setting up capacity for the rest of the season. And I think a lot of people towards the end of training camp can kind of have that I need to get through this week, and then I just need a little bit of a small window of a break, and then I'm going to be able to hit this full force again. Is this towards the end of your season, which I'm going to make some assumptions here that it is, because this would be the spring semester. We're in April now. So with that, I would say just hang on.
Yeah.
Just hang on a little bit longer, because you're almost there. You're almost through the semester, and then we can reflect back on the semester and make more informed decisions.
Hmm.
You never want to fully opt out or not quiet quit, but fully quit when you're in it.
Yeah.
Because if the water's boiling, you're not going to see a reflection. You need to let that water calm.
Hmm.
And I'm guessing that you're heading into finals and like towards, potentially playoffs in your sport. Um, Not a great reflection time.
Hmm.
I'd love to sit here and say that like, oh, you can sit here and figure it out. And they're at like, you got a couple weeks, you need to just kind of keep showing up,
Hmm.
get through it, and then you can reflect back on it. You can reflect back on it and say, when did I start to lose the fiery passion that I had for this sport? Is it the politics related to it? Was there something that happened, um, like a disagreement that hasn't been brought to in a conversation, whether it's coaching, whether it's teammates? Were you promised recruiting promises that you then it wasn't delivered upon?
Hmm.
So now you're feeling that disappointment and maybe resentment towards being there. Was there a coaching change this semester and that didn't fare well? But maybe that coach has showed enough that if you give that coach an opportunity, that you want to stay with that coach and that you know that they're going to elevate your game and your team's game, but they just man got through into the ringer
Hmm.
this year, and they're like next year they can get it figured out. Um, did you have a rough season?
Hmm.
Is there a slump happening? Is it you're not performing to the best of your capabilities? Was it a hard semester?
Hmm.
You have classes. What's your major? There's certain majors where certain semesters are just hard. Like if you're in kind of a science major and you're taking chemistry and physics, 3 to 4 credit hour course with labs added
Hmm.
on to that. Like, is there just a lot on your plate
As a student
as a
athlete.
student
Yeah.
athlete? Are you also, needing to work part time
Hmm.
to pay for your education, to pay for your rent, to potentially then get a scholarship? Like, are you walking on and you have more responsibilities than a typical student athlete? Like, is there just so much on your plate right now that it's so hard to balance everything that you got going on? And are you quiet quitting in multiple areas of your life? And if so, that's a reflection of not necessarily not having your passion for the sport. That's a signal that you have too much happening.
Hmm.
And right now, again, I don't think it's the time to reflect on it. I think once your semester ends and you have the bandwidth to sit down and reflect and think on these things, talk with family, get outside perspective. Like talk to people that don't necessarily have skin in the game of you staying with that team or that college or hitting the transfer portal or
Right.
like they just want what is the best for you, and so they're going to give you honest feedback. And so if you can do that and then get that, you can make a more informed decision that ultimately you have peace with. You don't want to act rashly, which you're not because you're still showing up and you're still kind of going through it,
Hmm.
but just finish it out, give yourself the space, and then kind of reflect on those questions that we just went through.
Yeah, it's a challenging space to be in where you're at as a collegiate athlete. And for anyone listening that's in similar settings, but maybe not a collegiate athlete, like Dylan asked a lot of questions that were more collegiate athlete
Hmm.
based, but you could kind of frame them differently depending on what your specific season of life is currently. If you're relating to how Kiara is feeling. And I know for me, like I had a season where I was quiet quitting and it wasn't like for Kiara, say that she like say this is like April, she only has like a month left and then she's on summer quote unquote break. I know it's probably not the
Yeah.
3 or 4 month break that we would like to have, but for someone like for myself, like I feel like I was quiet quitting for like 6 to 8 months and it
Mm,
was every day I had to like show up and it was exhausting and it honestly like affected my spirit and affected how I was handling other areas of my life because of how draining it was.
yeah.
Um, that's not a fun place to be in. But taking that step back, like for Kiara, the advice is like hold on because you know that there's like a month left. If you don't have an end in mind, I would argue like this episode is your quote unquote sign to
Hmm.
take a step back, take a Saturday on the weekend and really reflect on some of this and really dive into it because it's not fun to be in that quiet quitting space
Yeah.
for 8 months or 12 months or 4 years.
Yeah.
Like at some point there needs to be like a reflection.
Yeah. I go to this example. There was an Olympian athlete that told her daughter, because her daughter was very active in multiple different sports, and told her like, hey, there's going to be times that it gets hard. And if you don't want to pursue that particular sport or activity anymore, like that's completely fine. We support you. But the rule is that you're not allowed to quit because of a hard day.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to quit on a good day, that's fine. And if you're in it, whether it's workplace or athletics, whatever it may be, don't make that rash decision at lunchtime that like had enough. See you later.
Flip the table.
Flip
Peace
your
out.
table. Peace out. Like get home,
Mm-hmm.
reach out to the community that you have to just be able to not complain but have a vent session. And then give yourself that space, whether it's like if this happens Monday, I know Saturday is far away. Uh, can you take a personal day? Do
Mm-hmm.
you have a sick day that you can give yourself that space, have a good day, really reflect on this and say, hey, am I really supposed to be here? Is this just a season that
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go through? Like, this is a hard season, but I know that this is what I'm being called to. This is where I'm supposed to be. This is where my quote unquote life's work is supposed to be at, or not.
Mm-hmm.
And if it is, and you know that, hey, this is just a hard season, well, now we can start to change the focus to, hey, in this hard season, how can you be the catalyst to make it more enjoyable for the other people there? And knowing that you're going to stay there can change your relationship with that environment
Mm-hmm.
versus the uncertainty. Like if you're going in and you're looking for reasons to stay and you're looking for reasons to leave, like you're gonna bounce back and forth like a pinball. And you're gonna leave one day frustrated and angry, and the other day you're gonna leave good and like, okay, I can stick this out one more day. And you go back that next day, and then the next thing happens, you're like, I'm gone.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden you have these major fluctuations, and that's just you don't want to be
Mm-hmm.
in that fluctuating spot. So you want to give yourself the space to make the best decision, whether that is going to be staying or whether that's going to be leaving.
Mm-hmm.
If it's going to be staying, well, now we can start to get into the work of looking at repairing some of these things that may have led to this feeling of you wanting to quiet quit.
Mm-hmm.
For Kiara, it's different. Well, maybe it's not because maybe in a workplace it's like, hey, I'm not able to leave right now because of this project that's happening, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
a key player in it. But I know that this project is going to be released in a month or 2 months,
Mm-hmm.
and I know at that point, then I can start to reflect on this a bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think too. I when I was in college, if I would have asked this question, I would have wanted myself and Dylan to say like, yes, quit or
Hmm.
no, don't quit. But the reality is like that's not our decision to
Yeah.
make. And hopefully this wisdom and what we've shared can give you a little bit of peace before making that decision. But if not, do you want to share with them another resource that could potentially help?
Yes, I do. And before sharing that super exciting
Yeah, it's kind of
news,
like our hope story. We're like
like the
super
hope
excited
story,
and
Kara, I do want to let you know that you're not alone on this.
yeah.
We've worked with multiple college athletes that have been in this situation,
Hmm.
whether they're coming back from an injury, whether the coaching staff, there's some political stuff happening, not like left or right, but like, oh, this girl gets to play and you don't, and I'm not going to give
Favoritism
you a
and
reason, or like this dude gets the starting role and you don't, but I'm not going to tell you about it, and the favoritism. And I'm working my butt off. I'm doing the things you asked me to do, and I'm still getting splinters in my butt. Like, what am I missing here?
hmm
Like, my stats are better, but I'm still on the bench, and like, what's happening here?
hmm
Like, can we have that conversation? But we've worked with multiple athletes in this, and it has to be your decision.
yeah.
And I don't want that to put more pressure on you right now, because right now, like, you're in the season, you're in the semester, you're almost towards the end of that, so you got to finish it out.
hmm
That doesn't mean that you're stuck.
yeah.
Like the greatest myth is that you're stuck in that position. Whether it's a job, whether it's athletics, whether it's a location, whether it's like so many people think, well, I bought a home, so I'm stuck here. You can sell that home
Yeah.
and you can go somewhere else. Well, I need to pay for my mortgage, and this is a job that pays for that mortgage. And I get there's different situations and things like that, but it is a myth that you are stuck. It's not a myth that it will take people different efforts and there'll be different challenges to get out of the position that you're in, but you are never stuck. Like that is a myth that you are stuck in that position. So, Kiara, find something that you love about that sport. Like remind yourself why you have that fiery passion to begin with. Don't lose your athletic being. Like do not lose your athletic being. Do not give up those sparks. Just find the thing in that you enjoy that you can kind of set up, I don't know how to say it, but boundaries that it's like they can't steal my joy because let's say it's lacrosse because I love seeing the ball in the back of the net. I love winning a face off. I love stealing the ball and running to midfield and clearing it. Like, what is the thing that you love? And focus on that and just say, no one's stealing my joy from that activity. So you have something to look forward to in that practice. And then maybe that evolves and you start getting some passion back that at least gets you to the end of the season. If this was like before your season was even starting, it'd be a completely different conversation because there's the space available to have these reflective questions because it has to be your choice. If it's somebody else's choice and it doesn't fall in line with what your soul wanted, there's going to be resentment.
Yeah.
And then you're going to want to you'll have the temptation to want to blame other people on it. And that's not how you want to live. So know that you're not alone, especially with the transfer portal the way that it is now.
Yeah.
This is very, very, very common. And I think it's also common that like these, it's different if you're a college athlete transferring to another college. It's different when you're a high school athlete now going into a college program of sometimes what you're told and what you get are two different types of things. And that's why you got to do due diligence when getting recruited to make sure that it is a right fit for you and that you're going to the campus and visiting it. You're talking to the team, that your family's involved in that decision. And if you don't have family, that your community, like the people that you love and trust, are involved in that decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hope story time.
Yeah.
Getting into the exciting part.
Yeah. The reason I brought it up too is because I feel like although I think that some of the practices that we're going to talk about could be very helpful when Kiara does take the time to reflect.
Yeah.
So you want to tee it up? I teed it up. You want to hit it in the home run?
Home run.
Home run.
Home run. Walk off. Let's see.
Let's do it.
So we noticed a common problem for a combined 20 years of high-level rehab and ministry that something crucial was missing for athletes. And yes, for other people, but specifically for us and where we've worked like with athletes. And that thing is that there's nothing that is addressing the spirit in the way that it should be addressed. There's mentioning of the mind, but there's a misunderstanding of the mind, which I think we talked about on a previous one of like the muddy mind and that the mind is not synonymous with the brain. Yet most of these strategies for athletes are like mindset, positive self-talk. Yes, it's powerful for the brain. Self-affirmation is powerful. Yes, for the brain. Like these things for mindset, growth mindset are helpful for the brain, but do they actually address the mind in the way that God created the mind to be? So we found that being a major thing that was lacking for athletes. And then we've noticed that the focus is always on the body. Like you want to reach your goals, you have to train harder. You have an injury, well, we have to train the body. And the other parts are left out and neglected. And we're not saying that the body's not important because the body does need training. But at some point, like you can't just keep putting more reps in. You can't just keep working till exhaustion and then not understand why you're not recovering or why you're not performing well. So in our work in the past 20 years, we've found that, hey, if we truly address the spirit and we unmuddy the mind, this sets up such a phenomenal opportunity for the body to perform and to heal from whatever illness or injury that it's kind of consumed with. So through 20 years, we've worked this strategy and we started to notice like more athletes are hungry for this. More athletes are asking for this of how can I do that or how can I have that? And it took us a while because we love working with people in person and like, well, can we have this connection with someone through an online course? Can they get the same benefit that they get in person as doing this on an online course? And I was kind of reserved from that for a while of like, can connection happen digitally? And yeah, my bias was slammed because yes, you can. And it sets up to serve more athletes that really need this. So what is it? It's an online course called Reclaimed Athlete, where our focus is nourishing the spirit, unmuddying the mind, and energizing the body using the tools that God has already created you with. It is an 8 session course that is self-paced. You can do it as fast as you want to. It comes with a workbook because it's not just like learning from the what we call the film studies, but it's actually putting it into practice. And the workbook does, I don't say forces you, but the workbook
It
guides you into practicing what is taught in the film study. Because if we're not practicing it, it's not going to be used and we won't get the full it won't fully come to fruition unless it is truly practiced. So we have worked extremely hard on this. I mean, the past 3 months have been filming, editing, getting the workbook together, but it really has been a 20-year combined effort of learning and adapting and seeing what are the needs of all these different types of athletes, whether they're collegiate, whether they're professional, whether they're a youth athlete, whether they're a master's athlete, whether they're a parent with a full-time job and still trying to get some type of training in and they feel like they're drained and they're sucking down energy drinks, sucking down coffee and they still feel drained and they just like they need that something to really nourish their spirit and to reclaim their athletic being, right? Because like you these things fill you because you are passionate about it, because you are made to be passionate about it. So we have to make sure that your spirit and your being is that of an athlete long term. And that's what the course focuses on, is allowing you to be a reclaimed athlete. Kiara, you might feel like your athletic spirit is drained and you are ready to throw that. Do not give up your athletic being. Not saying don't transfer or don't look at other opportunities, but do not give up your athletic being. We have worked with hundreds of people that have given up that athletic being and they want it back. And once they get it back, it is a beautiful thing. It is incredible to see that happen. And most of the time it occurs because they're given terrible advice.
Yeah. Terrible.
Stop playing that sport, you're too old.
Yeah.
What? And they're like, no, like, let's get that back. And when they get that thing back, that is incredibly important to them and incredibly meaningful. It is so beautiful because it makes them feel complete. And if a person is complete and feels whole, they have better health. If they have better health, they're a better asset to their community, family, society. Like us as a greater whole, like the body of what we are, they are a better member of it because they are whole. And part of why they're whole is because they're doing what completes them. And that is reclaiming their athletic being. So that is now available. It is available. And in the launch phase, we're going to throw in some discount price to just help get it out to as many people as possible. But we are really excited for it. And what started to go on this ramp, but
He's excited.
What really excites me is like, we know that this is a need. We know that this course is needed. We know that at this current state that we're in, like athletes need this. And I was kind of like, I know athletes need this. I know athletes that we work with need this. But you start to kind of think, well, like, do other athletes need this? Like in this population? And you don't shy away, but you're like, yeah, we're not going to tell them too much about it because I don't think they'd be interested. Man, have I been wrong with that. Like, you don't know what population truly needs this until you have the conversation or until it becomes available, and then you start seeing it get out to them. So, if you are interested in the course, the link will be in the show notes. And if you go through it, and if you go through it, we know that you are going to love it. You're going to be served by it. You're going to be a better person on the other side of this course than when you started it. And you are thinking about recommending it to a colleague or a teammate, but you're a little worried because
Mm.
you're like, oh, I don't know if they'd be interested in it. Offer it to them.
Yeah.
Like just let them know about it and then let them make that decision. And that's something that I'm working on
Hmm.
myself so we can work on that together.
Yeah. Yeah. I I'm very excited about Reclaimed Athlete as well. I think that it's something that would have served me when I was going through my injury.
Mm,
And when I look back at my injury in high school, I got injured and then I feel like I really experienced like depression, anxiety for the first time, and like those things stayed in my life consistently for years. And I just think that, not that like this is the cure all by any means, but I do think that it would have helped me a lot when I was going through my injury, when I was discouraged, when I was honestly down and felt like my athletic being was slipping away, and then for some time I thought that it was completely gone. And so I think of different athletes and the different seasons of life that they're in. If they feel their athletic being slipping away, if they feel like their program is very heavy body focused. I imagine as a collegiate athlete, everything is just so body focused, and it doesn't that does not encompass the all of who you are. And I really believe that this is an all-encompassing thing to get people back to being spirit, mind, and body. And so go click the link in the show notes.
yeah, and if you're if you want to be a complete athlete,
Hmm.
right, and you're only focused on the body, maybe you're only focused on the body because your spirit is phenomenal and filled and
Fair,
sparked,
yeah.
and you understand the mind and like fully understand the mind
Hmm.
and already have those practices, then okay, finish out the equation. Like
Hmm.
focus on the body. That is few and far in between that is happening. If you are
Yeah.
only focused on the body as an athlete, you are hitting 1/3 of the equation,
Hmm.
meaning you're leaving 2/3 to
That's
chance.
66%.
66%. Like take care of it. And then it's funny because it adds up to 99%. Like, yeah, leave that 1% to chance.
Yeah. Or to God, I would say.
Or to God. Yeah, 100%. So yeah, it's just, right now this course is, geared for people that have like lost their athletic being, but it doesn't mean that it can't also be used as prevention
Hmm.
and to help, kind of take care of this on the front end.
Hmm.
Not to get juicy, so that way you don't have to worry about going to a fortune teller or ayahuasca
Yeah,
ceremonies or
exactly.
other
Tarot card things
silent,
and
muddy retreats and
yeah.
whatever else is available out there. There are
Boo.
much different ways that you can take care of it
Well,
from the comforts of your home or office or coffee shop or wherever you may be. That is much more cost effective
yeah.
and can be a solution instead of a thing that you have to continue
Hmm.
to invest in
Hmm.
money wise. Like
Yeah.
always need to invest time into these things if you want them to grow
Yeah.
and flourish.
Well,
But
and the last thing I want to say is that part of reclaiming your athletic being is reclaiming the fact that God created you with these different tools and abilities and gifts to heal and to thrive and to be fueled and nourished, and that has been lost.
mhm,
Often, and granted, this is I'm going to use the word external, like reclaimed athlete is an external thing, like it's a resource, but the goal of this resource is to help you realize that you already have all these things within you versus like trying to then upsell you to go get a sauna or upsell you to go to this ayahuasca ceremony, which we talked about a couple weeks ago in one of our episodes, or to upsell you to do this or this or this. Like that's not the goal here.
mhm.
The goal is that like God created you great and with these gifts and tools and abilities that hopefully Reclaimed Athlete will really help you channel and utilize so that you can thrive spirit, mind, and body.
Yeah, it's been amazing to see what happens when we really look into research and science and see the healing potential of the body when we're not offering all these different types of external things and modalities and all that of well, this 4 weeks of uh, needling, cupping, like they can decrease symptoms, right? But the reality is that the body's already healing itself in the background.
Yeah.
Like that's incredible to me. And there's like this whole thing, like icing an injury that we've done since the 70s. And now I've learned that, well, this may actually delay the healing process because the way that the body has inflammation and goes to that area, like that can actually help heal that area, and icing it may delay it. And so this thing that we've been taught to do for years, actually, let's not do it because we're already created with the things that we need in order for it to be healing. And I don't want it to take away from, well, like some people are born without those things. And so there are great things that have been developed through technology, through science, through research to help provide those things. But, if you're created with that capacity, and specifically in athletes to heal, well, let's focus on that. Like, let's put our time and attention into that. And yes, reclaimed athlete is an external thing, but as Brandon said, it's an external thing to bring you back into the internal things that you already have that you can use to become who you're meant to be.
So click it in the show notes. You can learn more on our website, which we'll have the link in the show notes, and it'll explain it further. I think we did a good job explaining it here, if I do say so myself. But if you're curious and you like to read, because maybe the audio, although you're listening to the podcast, maybe the audio isn't the best learning tool for you and you want to read it, that is on our website, and the link is in the show notes. So thank you so much for listening, and we hope that Reclaimed Athlete can bless you.
Yeah, so thank you, Kiara, and thank you to all the athletes that we've been able to work with in a combined 20 years in ministry and high-level rehab that have been open and vulnerable and courageous to share where they're struggling with. Because like all of those experiences and creating more curiosity within us to go in and read more and learn more and study more and reach out to experts and learn from these experts that then allowed us to create this. Like none of that would have happened without them first being there and letting us know their stories and their struggles, and not actually like, hey, give me a solution, but just like, here's what I'm dealing with. I feel open enough and safe enough to share this with you. And just kind of seeing that evolve through this to create this, like, it's very exciting, but I'm also very grateful for all the people that led to this being developed that we didn't even know that it was going to be developed. It just through the years of the work has led to this. So thank you to them. Thank you for listening. Have a great week. And remember, every day is not just a day to be hopeful, but an opportunity to become hope.
The Hope Not Know podcast is meant for educational, informational, and personal development purposes only and does not constitute any health or medical advice. If you're looking for specific advice, connect with us to work with a Hope coach. The Hope Not Know podcast shall not be liable or responsible for any loss or damage allegedly arising from any information or suggestions in this podcast.